Welcome to Empowerment Radio. My name is Dr. Friedemann, and I'm so glad that you decided to join me. Empowerment Radio is about giving you the insights, tools, and solutions to address some of the most challenging aspects of our daily lives. So sit back, relax, and empower yourself.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in. And I know it's not an easy topic, grief, but it's really an important topic because you know what? We are basically masters of letting go, masters of losing things all the time. We just never really see it as that. It's almost like we are only really dealing with loss and grief when we are feeling like it has been done to us, and not when it's something that feels like, well, this is a natural part of life. Well, when you think about it, symbolically, every exhale is a letting go. You have billions of cells in your body every day that are dying, and they're letting go and making room for new cells. Letting go of your youth, letting go of your childhood, the house you grew up in, letting go of relationships you were in, letting go of the time. Every day you let go of a little bit more of the time that you have in life. We are letting go all the time. Even when you spend money, you're letting go of something that's valuable to you. And yes, you get something in return. And on some level, that's exactly what happens also when we are going through loss and the process of grieving. There is something that we can get in return. And that's a different perspective on grief and loss that I just want to invite you to think about, to contemplate. It doesn't have to be that grief and loss is just, labeled with tremendous pain and really the hardest time in our lives. It can also be the most transformational time in our lives. And when you really think about it, we are, maybe a tradition in the Western world that doesn't really celebrate death or loss very much. It's much more a somber affair, something really, you're wearing black clothes, you have very subdued music, and in the end, it's just, just a very, very heavy energy. And then there are other traditions that are celebrating, dancing, just also reminding themselves of, well, life is to be lived and enjoyed. And even other traditions are happy for the ones that are dead because it's their idea that, they are moving on to a better place, or moving on to a lighter place, or they are coming back in a new way, and they have been really, really good people. So their karma is great. So probably their next life going to be top. There's just a different way that I also feel like we can contemplate about seeing death, not just something that has to be dark and has to be, a process of pain. But when we look at the grieving, when we look at this opportunity in it, as I said, there is something I felt about the remaking of oneself. And one of the things that it taught me, and what I often hear from people that had been dealing with loss and grief, that integration of grief, is that they do feel it's a reminder of the preciousness of life. When I had plenty of people dying before, uncles and aunts and grandparents and even friends, but when my parents died, it was really like hitting me that, yes, this is actually that real clear signal that life is short, it's not permanent, in contrast to my old belief, and it's precious, and every day counts, and the time is now. And that's when my wife and I really decided to make the big move and get out of the city, move to Europe, and just start new and follow our hearts and follow our desires. And I will never regret this, and I'm always grateful for my parents passing to give me that catalytic ignition to make that happen. Now, others really feel like that when they are grieving, it's also something that they're learning about the importance of detachment. Not that detachment is something, well, I'm not caring, but the detachment of being willing to let go of something that was precious to you, and trusting at the same time that when something ends, some new beginning will also eventually come into your life. One door closes, another opens up. And Rumi said, whatever we let go of comes back to us in a different form. That is also something, this idea of isn't really attachment and holding on to that. And even if it's not there anymore, still holding on to it. Isn't that, like the Buddhists say, the root of suffering? So learning to be more graceful with letting go, that can also be a gift of the grief. And another gift of the grief is that acceptance that we are not in control. The acceptance of that there are certain things we can certainly try to take charge of, be the steward of, feel responsible for. But overall, we are not really in control. And we do have to work on trust in life, or trust in ourselves, that when life happens, we can handle it. We will know how to move forward and what to do. And then there is spirituality. Is not when there is loss and grief. Isn't there like also a possibility to explore your spirituality? This big question, what happens after death? Well, usually we don't want to think about it, or we are cynical and feel like, well, there's nothing happening. It's all a big void. And pretty much, we go back to the earth, to the worms, and that's it. And is that really it? Is that really what we want to believe? Or is when someone is passing, we have that grief, that not also an opportunity to maybe open up to other beliefs? Maybe the belief that we all are spiritual beings having just a physical human experience. The belief that there is something greater inside of us than just our mind or our body, and that this greater self continues to move on. And it's just death, a rebirth, a transformation into that other self. Just like when water is evaporating, well, it's still there. The molecules are still there, but you cannot see them anymore. They're just in a different form. Just being open to explore what feels right to us. I had a whole show about death and the near-death experiences, and you can see it in my YouTube channel, but it is really fascinating to hear how people talk about that when they had near-death experiences and then they were brought back, that they didn't want to come back. There were people often saying like, why did you bring me back? And when they were asked, well, I'm sorry, but why do you say that? They say, I felt so loved and so accepted, more loved and accepted than I have ever in my entire life. When you really are allowing yourself to contemplate, is this what we are experiencing right now? Maybe the harder part, and the moving on, and that unconditional love and acceptance we are experiencing from a benevolent force, is that actually something that's so, beautiful and desirable that we have to forget for a while, because otherwise we'd probably, always jump off the bridge? Is that something that is still also maybe a thought, a notion, a belief that you can contemplate, that you can allow yourself to grow into a little bit more? Now, I want to leave you with a saying by Rumi, and Rumi, the great mystic, and he said, grief can be the garden of compassion. If you keep your heart open through everything, your pain can become your greatest ally in your life's search for love and wisdom. And I think that is really the gift of the pain, the gift of the grief, that it does open us up. It does make us search for deeper meaning. It makes us really go more into the core of what it means being alive, whether we are cherishing life more, whether we are able to cherish ourselves more, whether we are able to love more deeply. and just slow down and really take in with our senses everything that is there, because the person that passed reminds us of how important it is to leave this world and leave this body with a sense of fullness and not with regret or a yearning of, oh, I wish I would have done this or more. That would be certainly also a wonderful gift of the grief that some of you or many of you may have been dealing with. And I hope today you got some little tidbits and ideas on how to go through grief with greater awareness, kindness, compassion, and also with an openness to harness the gifts of this difficult time. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, just reach out at hello@drfriedman.com or visit my website at drfriedman.com. Take good care of yourself, and during these turbulent times, really make sure that you ground yourself, center yourself, tune out sometimes the noise around you, and don't lose yourself in the vortex of that really exciting, transformational, but at times also a little bit overwhelming energy.
Hi, Dr. Friedemann here. Thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. If you're interested in learning more about fear and anxiety, here you'll find guided meditations, webinars, and interviews with some of the most renowned experts in the field of empowerment. Delve into the over 230 videos and more to come every week.